Hi both, welcome to the first episode of our 4-part podcast series called Tech Horizons Navigating the Middle East's Construction Revolution. I'm really happy to have you here today, not only because you're Procore legends, but also because, we talk a lot about the topics that we're going to touch upon in and around the office on a regular basis, but we don't often get the opportunity to share those insights with a wider audience. So I think today we've definitely got the opportunity to kind of share some of those pearls of wisdom that we've learnt throughout the years of our construction experience. Before we get started, I think we should probably do a few intros because I don't want to take for granted the fact that I obviously know you very well, but a lot of the listeners may not have had the pleasure of meeting you. So to my far left is Zainab, our product marketing manager at Procore, and then to my close left, Mohammed, senior solutions consultant. Guys, you've both been in the region for a while now. Could you give us a little bit more detail and background into, why you came here and what you've been doing whilst you've been in Dubai?
Yeah, well, I'll start if that's all right. Thank you, first of all, Maddie, for including me and bringing us here to really spread the word on the topics that we're going to talk about today. My name is Mohammed Al-Faour, like you said, Senior Solutions Consultant with Procore Middle East. And I get the opportunity to support people when they're evaluating digital transformation in their organizations. So I've been in and around the industry and the region for about 15 years, and a couple of years ago joined Procore and haven't looked back really. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And how about yourself, Zainab?
My name is Zainab Toiber, and I love how people are really coming to Dubai and having it very hard to leave again. My background is very tech heavy, and I found myself in this intersection between technology and construction. And honestly, I must admit, I'm completely hooked. It's really a great place to be, whether we're talking about the region, whether we're talking about the industry overall. And I'm very happy to be here and share my experiences with you too. So thanks, Maddie, for having us.
No, absolutely, guys. Thank you both for being here. I'm ready to get stuck in. I have my coffee. I'm well caffeinated. So let's get started. I guess, as they famously say, you can't really know where you're going until you know where you've been. I'm going to add a little bit onto that and say also to truly know where you are in the present day. So I guess my question to you guys is, what is the current state of play when it comes to construction in the Middle East, and in particular, our adoption of construction technology?
So that's a great question. I started my career in the industry about 15 years ago in the Middle East, and really having the chance to see where we were and where we are now, it's leaps and bounds. Folks that used to look at digital technology in the industry as a luxury are no longer doing that. It's now a necessity, and it's being acknowledged as that. The economic diversification projects in the region are forcing people to need to adopt these technological advances to be able to handle the sheer level of projects that they're working on. And essentially, all of these projects are just bringing technology to the forefront. And to be honest, myself personally, I decided to transition from an active role in the industry to this more supportive role because of this change and because of what I witnessed and took on myself personally. And essentially, just want to bring that to the folks in the industry. And we all share that in the Procore MENA family, as we like to call ourselves. And it's our true north, where we just want to be there to guide and take these folks' hands through this journey and navigate these waters together.
I love that, MJ. Super customer centric and kind of just helping those that build the world build better, right? That's our tagline.
Absolutely.
So, Zainab, how about yourself?
You've been in the region for 15 years, Mohammed. I've been here for 18, and you see how dynamic this region is. It's very resilient. There are challenges, obviously. They're global, and they affect us. However, we're still growing. And you see a building and a structure in every single angle you look. And that's around most of the region, whether you're in Morocco or you're in Saudi Arabia, we are growing.
Yeah.
So I want to answer this question, but I don't want to share my personal opinion. I want to talk about what business leaders in the region think of the industry overall. So let me bring up How We Build Now, which is a report that is conducted by Consensus-wide and commissioned by Procore Technologies. And it is showing us how confident the region is. And I must say that the numbers are actually impressive. And the majority of construction owners and decision makers here are very confident in the market in the next 12 months. That confidence is linked to the way that the region is growing, the amount of work, the amount of buildings, and also the value of work going out there. And in fact, 9 out of 10 of these professionals are expecting a growth in the next few months as well. The reality is 80% of them have also increased their investment in technology. So it is a great testimonial of where the region is standing.
So 80% of increased investment, despite kind of any macroeconomic headwinds that we're facing. It kind of feels to me that from what you're saying that we're almost in a little bit of we're still building despite some of the challenges that we're facing, and that level of confidence isn't being kind of hit in any way. And so we're in a really good place to start embracing construction technology more wholeheartedly and to build better, I guess, build even more.
Absolutely.
Do you think that part of the reason why we're feeling confident, though, is because a lot of these companies have already realized the benefits of construction technology? So that level of faith in it is on a solid foundation of success to date. What do you think, Mohammed?
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. And I love what you noted there, Zainab. We're hearing it with the clients that we're all supporting together. The sentiment is absolutely positive. The outlook is absolutely positive. And I'll share some more insight on that. Industry professionals that I've personally been able to support over the last couple of years, they've told us certain themes that are repetitive. Like we're starting to see these themes like digitalization and technology, supporting them and enhancing collaboration. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, bringing in folks and stakeholders earlier and on design for projects, for example, you start to get early indicators, mm-hmm. right? And in addition to that, something that's very difficult traditionally in the industry is to facilitate accountability.
Yep.
So that happens also naturally by giving everybody what they need, making things accessible and centralized. And then management starts to get reporting that they need, timely reports. All of this in a structure from like a data perspective, then you start to gain even insights into the future, mm-hmm. which I'm sure we'll talk about some more in a bit. But, I've got a couple of quick stories for us. A controls manager with a general contractor based out of Saudi told us that them and their team really appreciated the fact that when they needed information or documentation, they knew where to look. Mm. Where traditionally, they were going down random rabbit holes and file structures just to find an empty folder. So saving time there has been huge for them. In addition to that, we've got a owner-developer, and one of their executives had told us that they appreciated the partnership that we brought to our engagement together. And they looked at us not so much as a provider, but more as an assimilated members of their team. And they said that the best practices that we brought to their projects, and they're developing communities, FYI, mm-hmm. under very tight timelines, that was the sole purpose of them being able to deliver on time. And without it, they were confident that they couldn't. So that was huge.
These are great examples, Mohammed. There are different layers, obviously, to really ensuring that whatever transformation we're talking about is done the right way. And I wanted to touch on two ways that I personally see this happening. The first thing is choosing the right platform. It really starts there. And the second thing is ensuring that the employees are engaged and using the platform and seeing the value of it. We still rely on very, very fragmented environments. We still rely on tools here and there, very scattered. And it'll be good to integrate whatever we have today, pick and choose which ones are really crucial, and integrate all the must-haves under one single platform. So that's a good start. Absolutely. Second thing is really understanding how to engage the employees best.
Which is a hard task, right?
It is absolutely.
Big time.
It is a challenging task,
not
just hard.
People naturally are resistant to change. I think that's human nature. Anything that causes change causes anxiety. So, by all means, so internal employee buy-in then.
Absolutely. If it starts by having an intuitive and easy to use platform, when the team sees the value of the platform, when the company invests in these people to ensure that they are up to date, they find it easy, they understand why they need to use this and that, and how it impacts them on the day-to-day, this will be a humongous step towards success. So two things, really choosing the right thing for the business, and second, ensuring that the team is adopting it in a genuine way, not just to tick off the boxes, which we often find ourselves doing, but really seeing the value and the impact that it has, not on us personally as employees and staff laborers, but also on the business overall.
They kind of come hand in hand, I guess.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're talking about ease of use and making sure that you're operating off a true platform, so to speak, that brings everything together so that, you know, the different parts of the cogs are all, you know, the different cogs are talking to one another. That's vital. And then, of course, when that has proven success, you're more likely to gain the trust of the employees. They'll believe in it. They'll adopt it more regularly, and then it will just become kind of innate to their day-to-day practice as they work through kind of like their processes. So it seems that it's kind of like, and if you don't get one right, then you're not going to get the other one right. Is that correct? They go
hand in hand for sure. Absolutely agreed.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I just don't think that we can talk about construction in 2023 without talking about sustainability. You know, it is a big topic. I actually read a quote the other day, and I'm going to read the quote word for word because I just don't want to butcher it. I think it's super important. So, sustainable development is a fundamental break that's going to reshuffle the entire deck. Now, bear with me. I don't know if you're card players or not. I only really extend to Snap personally, but there are companies today that are going to dominate in the future simply because they understand that. Simply because they understand that sustainable development is fundamental. It's a fundamental consideration that they need to make in order to get ahead of the game. What do you think of that when we consider Middle Eastern construction companies? In what ways do you think digital transformation is enhancing sustainable practices?
Yeah, I love this topic. All right. So first of all, sustainability is very much a hot topic in the region, and rightfully so. We'll get into it in a minute. But I'd like to actually shed a little bit of light. I look at sustainability in two ways. More of the traditional and more of the holistic. So let's start with the traditional approach. For example, we've got a host of green initiatives that are being launched in the region and beyond, of course. And folks are really just taking these different standards and trying to incorporate them. Now, in addition to that, you've got, for example, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, their net zero target by 2060 and the UAE by 2050. And on top of that, we've got the COP28 that's coming, that's going to be hosted in the UAE, for example. So these are very hot topics, right? But under the umbrella of sustainability, again, the more traditional approach, you've got folks focusing on reducing carbon emissions on their projects throughout the life cycle of the projects and assets. You've got folks that are looking at things like NEOM, the Lion project. That's going to be 100% ran on renewable energy, right?
Yeah.
So all of these kind of fit into that bucket, if you will, of the traditional approach, okay? But of course, in order to get there, you have to be able to keep track of those metrics, see if you're meeting those targets, and so on. So technology is absolutely going to play a key role in that. But that then brings me to my second point, the more kind of holistic or passive approach to sustainability. The way that I look at that, essentially, is that if you're starting to incorporate these digitalization processes, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, where you're bringing folks in, different vendors and stakeholders earlier in on design, you're going to reduce things like rework. You're going to reduce constructability issues, right? That's going to play a role in sustainability.
We're definitely in the very beginning of it, Mohammed. It's true that it is a hot topic, and we're still figuring out how to have visibility and how we track. And something as simple as reducing paper, and we know how this region is reliant on paper-based communication and processes in general. Something as simple as that can really make a major shift when we move to digital. It will not only ease the communication, reduce the rework, which is also linked to financials, obviously, but it also will reduce material wastage, time wastage.
Yes.
And all of these are not only really helping the environment, but also the business. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. So good to stop and think about what is the way for us to move towards sustainability.
I mean, I think it's just so key, especially for our region at the moment. We've got a lot of milestones, let's call them. Yep. The world is looking upon us this year in terms of what action that we're going to take. And we've set incredibly high standards. We've never shied away from doing everything bigger and better. We are in the city of bigger and better, right? So I think if anybody can do it, it's us. But being proactive with the conversation and not letting that die down is really going to be key as well in making sure that we're not reactive. And reactivity can sometimes mean that we're a little bit too late to the game. Absolutely. So, Zainab, you mentioned about visibility and trackability when you were talking about sustainability and kind of like the bottom line. And I think that feeds really nicely into kind of my next question, which is the role of data analytics and how that plays into construction in the Middle East and indeed improving the standards of the outcome, the project outcomes. So, Mohammed, let me start with you. And I'll reiterate the question. What role do you think data analytics plays in shaping construction in the Middle East?
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. So we just started to tap into that a little bit. Folks say that data is the new currency. Throwing slogans out there. It's. I think the industry has been striving towards going in that direction. Being able to get timely reports, leverage the data that has been collected over the years, right? There's a plethora of data out there, and the industry is very rich. Everyone knows that. But the truth is that although about, I think, half of the industry have already started to take advantage of this and tap into this resource, being data and analytics, but it's very much mostly in my opinion and from what I've seen, on net new data, not necessarily historical data, because historical data has been plagued, if I can use that word, by hard copies printed out, kind of sitting in filing cabinets and storage rooms, or separate siloed solutions like we touched on, and manual processes. So they weren't really enabled to leverage that data. And then we've got the other half of the industry, which is aiming towards going in that direction. And like you mentioned a few minutes ago, Zainab, you're saying that people are trying to make sure that they're doing it right. And I fully respect that. Because what it takes for analytics and data insights to really bring its true potential value is for it to be structured, for it to be standardized, so that the algorithms that you feed into these type of solutions to keep track of today's KPIs, but even tomorrow's KPIs, it needs to be able to connect the dots. So the foundation work needs to happen now in order for us to be able to leverage this capability and insights tomorrow.
Bringing all of that data together, and you're right, there's just reams and reams and reams of it. You know, it can be difficult to follow and to build a narrative around that to drive, you know, actionable, better, more accurate decision making. So I think you're right, the key is really bringing it together and then being able to build the narrative around it to drive for a better build. But I also think it comes down to data literacy. And this is a really nice segue into my last question. And it's something I'm actually personally very passionate about, which is, you know, upskilling the workforce, because different generations will have a different level of tech literacy and a different level of data literacy, because tech and data are so intertwined nowadays. So what do you think, in terms of construction companies, how do you think they're addressing the skills gap? Because this is actually a major challenge for us, not just in the Middle East, but globally within construction. So how are companies addressing that skills gap?
Yeah, all right. That's passion of yours. I feel like we're all passionate about this topic.
I know, it just cranked up a notch, right?
It did. All right. So it's become very clear and evident that companies are now starting to acknowledge the fact that their team members, their staff, are capable of doing more than their traditional roles and responsibilities, which is, you know, typically split up into several kind of individual tasks or individual roles. Now, with that type of acknowledgement, if we start to bring to light what the industry is doing, where they're starting to look at ways of enhancing their processes, they're starting to look at ways to centralize their documentation, digitalize their various interdependencies between departments and functions and stakeholders. Digital platforms are going to provide that avenue. So when we talk about upskilling our workforce, upper management executives in the industry are also seeing that. So they're starting to bring technology, and they're starting to also give folks the ability to learn those technologies, or bring in people into the organization that know it, so that they assimilate. That's also a key word. It's not replacing processes or completely cutting into the fabric of the company, but rather assimilating into their processes, assimilating into their teams. That's key. And you'll start to also notice a trend. I'm sure we've all seen this, but I'm sure folks that are listening have seen this too. We see trends now in the industry where people are also recognizing their folks. On social media, for example, recognition is also going to support these type of initiatives, right? And all of this really plays a role. I'm going to end my response to this with just this point. When folks are on this journey and they're trying to upskill their staff and enable them, if they include them in the process of the build out, they've got buy-in to the value that you talked about, right? And then in addition to that, if they partner up with the right solution, like we were saying, that solution, if they've got that culture as well, they'll get it by osmosis. But if they partner up with solutions that are in the past, they're going to stay in the past. And with all due respect, that just cannot happen no more.
So what you're saying is that when you're looking to partner with somebody, whether it be a software solution, vendor, provider, you need to make sure that your vision is aligned to their vision, your culture is aligned to their culture.
100%.
So it's definitely a topic that is at the heart of this whole journey of digital transformation. Without people, without skilled people, it's really difficult to achieve the outcome that we're looking at. So we asked business leaders, what's the confidence you have in your employees nowadays? What's the confidence you have in their skills? And the answer was, we're somewhat confident. 50% actually said we're somewhat confident, which still really brings up a lot of uncertainties still. There is the level of confidence is there, but not there yet. So the foundation is absolutely achieved. However, there's still a lot to do to get the people in the place they need to be. And when we asked them further questions, when that came up, soft skills was actually on top of the list. Mm-hmm. So it's not really about trained workforce. We do have those skills. Technical skills are out there, but soft skills are really what will take us where we need to be.
Absolutely.
And arguably, soft skills are harder to acquire than hard skills.
Which means that businesses and companies need to really invest in their people. Absolutely. They really need to put together, you talked about enablement, you've talked about really helping them through the journey, and everyone will realize the benefit out of it.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. Before I forget as well, I just want to let the listeners know that if you are interested in downloading the How We Build Now report, you can do so by following the link in the podcast overview, which will be housed on the Content Hub at DC Hub. It's been great having you today. Really, thank you so much for taking the time, giving us a glimpse of how we can all build better, and the future and where we're at and where we're heading within Middle Eastern construction. And I'd also like to thank the listeners and the watchers out there as well for taking the time to listen to us. Hopefully you've been able to take a little bit from what we've said, but if you have any questions or you have any suggestions on who you'd like to hear from in the future, then please don't hesitate to reach out to me via LinkedIn. My name's Madeleine Skillen, or alternatively via the Ventures Content Hub. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Until next time.
Thank you.